First story. Entitled Parents Demand OP to Reject Offers from Top Colleges because she is a girl and is not worth it, claiming they had already informed everyone that their daughter quit college to maintain their authority. So, OP cut ties and ran away from home. Now, they are calling her impure. Hi. Maybe I'm going to get lots of hate, but I just need to tell my story. I'm the oldest of 4 children. Raised by 2 respected and religious parents in my household, there was no substance abuse, no physical violence, and no sexual violence. My father is a very successful businessman, the most stable and established in his family. He is also a leader in his religious community. Guessed it? He is the narc. My mom, from early childhood, was always obsessed with being perfect. Never had any trouble in the family. She is always helpful to her community. She gave up being a doctor because her brother said it was too high for her. I married my dad because he was charismatic and stable. She's codependent and overbearing. From a very early age, my dad made it clear that we were special. We are part of the best religious community because we are smarter than average people and because our bloodline is superior. My mom was the scapegoat in the relationship, and I was the supreme golden child. I showed signs of early intelligence, so my dad put all his efforts into coaching me, teaching me that I can be better than others. No one can stop my success, and I am more deserving than others. All while belittling my mom and saying how less intelligent she is. My mom. She was overprotective, always checking who my friends were and not letting me socialize too much. I keep repeating my dad's words and saying I should not make too many friends because outside people are inferior and not good for me. After me, there was my sister. She was a forgotten child. After her, my brother is also a golden child because he is a boy. My younger sister was born 10 years after me, so she was also kind of forgotten or neutral. I've always been book smart. Quick talker, quick learner. High achiever at school. Overly confident, thanks to my father. Even good at housework and good manners. I prayed for my achievements. My younger siblings felt immense pressure every time I entered the room. I knew it. My sister, especially, was craving the attention I got. And all she got was being ignored because she didn't perform as well as me. At school, I was social, but felt like I was never being myself. I couldn't say how controlling my parents were for fear of being judged. And I couldn't form healthy friendships because any friend I had, my mom would remind me, was headed for hell anyway. As the years passed, I kept getting all the attention from my parents. Good or bad, by the way. And because I was overly confident, thanks, Dad, at around 15, I started to doubt and reject what my parents said about being superior and whatnot. That made my dad furious, even though he never raised his voice. So he kept telling me I was becoming impure. My heart was being dark from interacting with non-religious people. I was obsessed with boys and sex. I should clean myself up. At the time, I never even held a boy's hand. My mom was rubbing off on me, saying that I was not a good child and was only selfish. Because I still wanted all the attention and praise, I became obsessed with studying even more. I cut off people. I enrolled in a very competitive school program. I stopped caring about my looks, only focusing on getting the best school possible. And I achieved even better than anyone expected. Far better. I got accepted into a top school. I got ranked among the 100 best engineering students nationally in France and Paris. That day, the real breakdown happened for me. My dad, who was on a business trip, called me. It was not to congratulate me, but to tell me to refuse the offer of the Paris school and just go to the local one. I shouldn't care about worldly things if I am religious, right? I should accept my father's advice if my heart is pure, right? Anyway, I would forget about it in a year. What's the point of getting emotional? These were his words, with no emotion. I was crying and sobbing and saying how much I invested to get accepted, but he didn't care. My mom said she knew I would be like that. Studying too much is bad for girls, and my dad should never have put so much hope in me. Because anyway, my purpose was to get married, see the replay of her own demons. Because she didn't go to medicine school and went for a lesser one, only to get married soon after. My siblings criticized me for even thinking of moving out of school. That good religious daughter shouldn't think about this. I forgot my values. Every outside family member and school friend was calling me to congratulate me, but I couldn't pick up the phone and tell them what happened. What about my image? What could I say? Oh, I don't really care about this super school I got. I'm just going to stay close to my parents, when they saw me super obsessed for 2 years. So I cut off everyone. It seemed like I never saw their message. Soon after, I heard my father bragging to everyone about how I got accepted into a great school. But I was such a good daughter that I listened to him and went to the lesser one in our city. Going to this engineering school broke me. I realized I had no sense of self. I had focused so much on achieving that and had nothing else for myself. But even that, my parents didn't recognize. They wanted me to be the perfect religious child and be ready to give up anything the moment they said so. Because a good child listens to their parents. Because they raised me so well, what more could I want? As I went to high school, I tried to socialize more to avoid depression. That didn't go well. My mom was calling, messaging, and looking into my stuff all the time. They started calling me an SLT, a doublet to the non-religious men, a lowlife craving attention from these atheist scumbags. My dad said I was impure and too focused on worldly things, that my intentions were dark. My siblings said I was disrespectful of my parents' investment. I had never even dated at the time. My only sin was to journal, and my mom read it. So she thought I was acting out every emotion I had for men. It was like constant noise, and after 2 years, I couldn't take it. I felt so empty that I just wanted to disappear. I had no goal anymore. I couldn't even socialize. I just hoped I could die, because my heart was impure anyway. I could never be the child my parents wanted and invested in. Every woman in my community was okay. Why was I the only one depressed from it? Then I planned my escape. Dying or disappearing, that's the same anyway. I wanted to find myself, so I saved up my money and flew 10,000 km away. It was a crazy experience. I realized how little I knew about myself. I had to cope with the guilt of disappointing my parents. I had to learn how to interact with people. Mostly, I also understood how small I was in this world, and that I was not entitled to anything. For my family, this was chaos. My mom cried for the first time ever in front of my siblings. She didn't even cry when her dad died. She nearly suffered a heart attack, or so I was told, crying about how she lost her daughter and that I had left them. My dad called the police until our religious leader told him he could not catch me like that. I will come back when I'm ready. My grandmother said I was probably pregnant and trying to hide a child. My aunt left me messages to say how horrible I was. My parents had always given me privileges over everybody, and that's how I repaid. I was a selfish, ungrateful bee, but she knew it long ago. My siblings never contacted me. When I came back the first time, the family dynamics had changed completely. My forgotten sister had become the new golden child. Even though she was achieving less than I did, and not keeping the image my parents wanted, she was the good and pure daughter I was not. She had blossomed into a more confident self, but she was also spewing all the hate she had kept inside for years. Especially to me, she was telling me how much she despised and hated me for using all my parents' attention and still leaving. My brother was just a copy of my dad. Entitled, overly confident, smart, and manipulative. He wasn't achieving my academic success, but he was smart enough to get into a good school. My youngest sister, she used to love and admire me. But after I escaped and came back, she saw my mom get so hurt. She couldn't see me like that anymore. She still blames me for hurting my parents. And she always wants me to come back for good. I never intended to live with my family permanently, so I went away a second time. Of course, my dad tried to manipulate me, but I kept strong and departed again. It's been 3 years now, and I have fluctuated between NC and some interaction. But I can see my parents always hoping. They say I'm mentally unstable, that I should seek therapy, and that I will come back and be a normal child again. Thankfully, I have my own established life on the other side of the world, so every time I go to their house, it is temporary. But I have seen my parents always blame me and create a narrative that I stole from them, lied, etc. So I know I can never have a healthy relationship with them. Eventually, I know I will need to go NC. My siblings hate me, except for my youngest sister, who has conflicting feelings. Once I go NC, she will probably hate me too. I feel like going away was the best thing for my siblings because I removed the pressure to achieve. But I can't blame them for resenting me. You guys who were SG probably felt hate reading this. I'm a pretty selfish person, and I know it. I was groomed to be selfish, so I know I did wrong to my siblings in many ways. But I tried to expose the problem by escaping, and all I got was hate for disrespecting my parents. Today, I have a great relationship with a man who doesn't expect me to be anything but me. I know and feel he isn't a narc, and I'm working every day to not be narcing with him. I'm afraid I will turn out narcy like my dad or overbearing like my mom. I just want to be healthily confident and not despise others like I do sometimes. I want people to know I am just normal and that my achievements are just part of me. That status is not everything. I believe that my children should have their own lives, and I cannot expect them to achieve that. And I'm sorry on behalf of all the GC. Belittling SG sibling is a reinforcement that we are special. It helps us accept the high pressure to achieve and justify the lack of friends we have. It helps us repress emotions and become a copy of the NP, even if we are naturally sensitive. Wishing a nice day to everyone out there. A confused former GC. Second story. My in-laws took on 100K debts in my husband's name and pushed us into struggling to make ends meet. Now my delusional husband demands I arrange a party, saying he is having a reunion with his parents. I lost it, gave him an ultimatum, and took our kids before leaving him. I'm a 35F married to a 38 man. We have been together for 10 years and have 2 children, 9 and 5. My husband works very hard. He has multiple jobs he does throughout the week. Recently, we had a discussion about taking time off and spending some time together. It is difficult because, in the past, he accumulated a lot of debt, which is why he works so much. I work 60+ hours a week and take care of the household and childcare, while much of his income goes to paying his debts. I keep up with the household. I do the housework, lawn work, repairs, etc., and he contributes where he can. This year, he has taken time off for family and co-worker events. He has scheduled time to take trips with his friends, and when he does so, I'm the designated babysitter. Many days after he gets home, he is responsible for his parents. He takes them grocery shopping, fixes things in their household, and does some of their housework. I forgot to mention he is one of 5, and all 4 siblings live close to his parental home. His parents assist in child care for his siblings, but not for ours. I've told him my frustrations with being consistently placed on the back burner. The other day, I lost it. I found out that he invited his family to our house for a family reunion last week. I thought he took time off from work, but he didn't. The house was a mess, and most of the mess was his. I was expected to clean the house, get groceries, and run the kids to their weekend events, start cooking, and get the reunion set up as he sets the time for 4 p.m. when he gets out of work. The kids are helpful in doing their chores and cleaning their rooms. I got the house clean, and by the time his family started pouring in, I was stewing while he was at work. He asked me why there weren't any clean towels as he was going to take a shower, and I freaked out in front of his whole family. I ran down the list of how I am always on the back burner for these people, how I am one person, and I'm the one contributing to the household while he works just to pay off his debts, how I have no security or support in this relationship, that he is like having another child, and that all I feel like I'm worth is an occasional F whenever he is in the mood. I let it all out. I ended up being done. I packed a bag, and I took off. I'm sitting in a parking lot, hysterical. And no, the kids weren't present. They were outside playing. He is a good father to the kids, but as a husband, I feel like I am better off by myself. I have so much resentment towards him. And no, he hasn't called. He texted me, loud and clear, which made me even more angry because this is exactly how he deals with everything. I'm now feeling like an arsehole for going off and saying all I did, especially in front of his family. Aita? Comments. Vegetable business 897. So, tell him to move in with his parents while he pays off his debt. That way, he can care for them, hang with his friends, take the kids on the weekends, and do whatever he wants to do with no consideration of you. Then you can enjoy your home, children, and weekends to relax, all with one less giant child to care for. And then, when his debts are paid, you two can sit down and decide if the best course of action is to separate lives. NTA. Top put 1,541. Seriously, his parents have been fine with exploiting you, so they can benefit from the fruit of Sonny Boy's life. They can have their defective son back. Judgment. NTA. Update. 1 day later. Wow, oh wow. Thank you all for all the advice, the kind words, and some kick in the pants type of support. I came here to see if I was the RC hole, and I was body slammed with a lot of harsh truth. I'm not going to lie. Much of it was cathartic to hear that I'm not the RC hole, and it hurts to hear that I am being taken advantage of. So, here's where I'm at. After the loud and clear text, I was bombarded with phone calls and texts from his family. I sent a message to my husband to give me some space, and, if he had any care for me or this relationship, to call off his dogs. I put my phone on and do not disturb, with the exception of my children's iPad. I had called my mother, sent her some money, and she picked them up for a special grandma date or sleepover. Once they were there, I FaceTimed them and told them I was working. I'm not working. I had a secret rainy day fund and splurged on a nice hotel and spa day, had a few drinks, cried my eyes out some more, and just spent the day unplugged and journaled all my feelings. I haven't had time to do any of that in a very long time. After that, I mustered up the courage to open Reddit and read my fate, and wow, was I surprised. I was fully expecting a ton of "you are the arsehole" comments. To clear up a few things, I shamefully do not know the length of his debts. Much of it was from his parents putting bills in his name. Others were just mismanagement of money, credit cards, etc. I took over the finances after I found a letter in the mail saying that we were going to lose the house. I was contributing to the household bills at the time, and he was handling the finances. I trusted things were well. This was after marriage and after kids. We went to counseling because of it, and he said he was ashamed and afraid to tell me the truth. I took over about 3 years ago, and I told him to focus on clearing his debt, and I'd hold the household down while he did. I did not expect it to take this long, and with inflation, everything has just become more expensive, and that much harder for me. I was supposed to go back to school, but that was put on hold so I could catch up on what we were behind, hence the 60+ hours. I'm a nurse, and I work 12-hour shifts and capitalize on overtime where I can. I agree with the comment about being burned out. I realized this today. I realized at work or at home that I was constantly in critical thinking caregiver mode. My job is to care for and solve problems for everyone but myself. To clear up the comment that his family doesn't watch our kids, it was because they did so one time and threw it in our faces, and I said never again. I see how they use him. I have said something before, and he returns with, "One day they won't be here, and I'll wish I could have done more." I told him that's fine, but you have siblings that are equally responsible, some of whom don't have spouses or kids that can contribute. As far as the house and things go, he does really help when he can don't jump on me. I just want to be truthful. I think it came across that he comes home and does nothing. He just works up to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, so a lot of times it's me doing the majority of it. As far as the trips go, yeah, that's a sore spot. He tells me about them. He takes the day off. It pisses me off. I have to beg for time, and if and when we do get it, we end up in a fight, or I have to plan everything, or we can't get sitters and sit home, and he sleeps all day. And to be honest, I'm so full of resentment that it's almost too little, too late. Like, when I'm around him, I'm just so pissed off. He says I always have an attitude, and that he's trying, but nothing is ever good enough. So, I just stopped and accepted my fate, hence the blow up. I haven't spoken to him yet. Besides telling him to call off his family, he was part of the D&D on my phone. I'm enjoying the peace, I'm enjoying being by myself, and I'm just being present and aware of my feelings. Knowing my kids are safe, and that I can truly take some time for myself and my mental health right now is everything. I know tomorrow I have to go back to reality and deal with everything. I promise to update when I can. I'm sorry to leave you all hanging, if this isn't the update you had hoped for. I just want to enjoy this escape for as long as I can before my world implodes. Thank you all, and please keep the advice coming. I truly am alone on this one, and need all the advice and support I can get. Comments. Recyclopath. Every single day, he is lighting you on fire to keep his parents warm. It's a choice he is making. If he had his way, he would have made your children homeless. He won't even tell you the extent of the debts, and you stayed with him. What the F are you doing? How do you know he stopped overspending? How do you know his parents aren't taking out more debt in his name? How can you trust him? He won't even tell you about the extent of the damage. You are killing yourself for him. You are not able to be fully present for your children. He can't even be honest with you. Update. 1 day later. Update. Thank you all again for all the advice. I woke up this morning with a clear head. I'm still upset and disappointed. I had tons of voicemails from his family. I don't have the energy to listen through them all. I don't care. Like I said, I'm angry. But I also feel embarrassed. I did call my husband this morning. I could tell by his voice that he didn't sleep last night, and he confirmed that he in fact did not. He told me that after the blow-up, he asked everyone to leave. He was surprised to see my mother as I sent her to pick up the kids. He said that's when it really became real. We had a long conversation. I did apologize for exploding and doing so when I did, and not communicating better. He said he understood why I felt like I couldn't, and was actually glad it happened the way it did. His family finally got to see how much they affected his home. According to him, after I left, he laid into them and told them that he can no longer be the only one to help his family out, and that a lot of the mess he's in is their fault. He said that after the blow-up, he told his siblings they needed to step up and help his parents. His parents were obviously upset with the whole ordeal. I couldn't care less, to be honest. They couldn't believe that they were such a burden because they asked for a little help from time to time. I just rolled my eyes in disgust as he was talking. My new space, along with my feelings of hurt and anger, just let me speak all my truth. I had nothing left to give or lose, so I told him how I felt about everything. He sat in silence for a while, then finally broke down and said he felt like a failure. He's ashamed of the debt and how much he has let us down. He said he was exhausted and has been feeling depressed because he couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel and feels as though he's ruined our future. He goes out with his friends to feel normal and himself, because all he does is work. He does this because of this black cloud that's been hanging over him. I wasn't my best self in this moment, and I told him to save me the self-pity. It's pathetic. He got himself into this mess, and I'm digging him out. I'm effing depressed too. There's a ton of SHT I want to do that I can't do because I'm financially unable to do so. I went off how over the past 3 years his income has gone solely to debt repayment. Yet there's no end in sight because I haven't even seen the so-called debt. I've given him my all and as much support as I could gather, but I'm angry. This isn't the life I pictured or set myself up for either. It's not the life my kids deserve. I've missed out on so much because I'm working, I'm cleaning, or I'm just so tired I can't even open my eyes. I told him he had no one to blame but himself. I think my disdain was concerning. He said he will show and prove that he will print out his credit report and list out all the debt he has, along with all his pay stubs and bank records, the receipts of what's paid off, and whatever else I want as far as his finances are concerned. He promised me that my hard work was not in vain, and that he was almost debt-free. He came to find out his parents opened credit cards and bills in his name when he was younger and accrued close to $100,000 of debt in his name, not including interest. They trashed his credit, and that's why it has taken so long. According to him, he has been fighting with the collection companies to settle, trying to consolidate or get a lower interest rate, as there were multiple companies and debts. What I didn't know was that some were so bad that his wages were being garnished. He was in tears and said he didn't know how to tell me that he didn't even know the extent of what they did. He was basically working all these hours with nothing to take home to us, and accruing more debt just to survive. I stayed silent. My blood was boiling. He didn't even realize he just helped me make my decision. He jokingly said my outburst took care of the family situation, and that is why he texted me, loud and clear, meaning he and they got the message I told him I didn't find funny. It's a shame that it took an outburst from me for everyone to hear what I've been saying all along. That he's an idiot for not filing charges against his parents, and just taking it up the arse and allowing it to ruin my life and the lives of the children we created lives. I told him he's a pineals and I feel so stupid. He said he didn't call me because he knew how mad I was, and was scared he would say the wrong thing and say things just like that. I thanked him for the honesty and the conversation, and I told him I am so broken, angry, and hurt right now that I can't even pick up my pieces, let alone his. Right now, I need to clear my head. He said he's willing to do whatever it takes to turn this around. He even suggested marriage counseling. He told me he used his PTO and took the rest of the week off to work on this. I lost it and sobbed uncontrollably. If it was that easy to take time off, why now and not then? I asked him, why didn't I matter before we got here? Why now? I told him he needed the time off to find counseling, both personal and legal. I won't be coming home. He asked me if I was serious, and he begged me to rethink my decision. He said all the things I've been wanting to hear. He asked me where I was going, and what about the kids, the house, and the bills. I couldn't tear the kids from the only home they knew. I simply replied, I know this is what needs to be done, and I've already set the ball in motion. He hung up on me. I cried, then went to get the kids. We are going to have a wonderful week in a somewhat fancy hotel, swim in the pool, order room service, and make some memories. I took some of the money I had saved in my rainy day fund and extended my hotel stay to include me and the kids. I have an awful lot to catch up on with them. The look on their faces when I said, "No, Mommy doesn't have to work tonight," was priceless. I also have an appointment with legal consultants tomorrow. Hopefully, I can talk to a lawyer and figure out what's next. Wish me luck, everyone, and thanks again. Comments. Help statistician. Make sure the lawyer knows what the debt situation is and tries to get a credit report. Make him send you the login, not just a screenshot, so you can see his entire credit history. Show your lawyer which ones you indicted were frauds. $100,000 would put your kids through university. That's a house down payment, not to mention interest. He decided the family he came from was more important than the family he made with you. So you're going to put yourself and your kids first now. Third story. My husband's female coworker is acting too close to him, and when I bring it up, he tells me not to bother him because he is grieving his mother's death. My straw was when she gifted him a shirt, which he accepted and wore in front of me. IF30s have been with my husband M30s for 5 years. Recently, in the last year, he has started a new job position, where his role is shared with his coworker, Chelsea F20s. I've noticed that his coworker, Chelsea, has increasingly pushed my limits of comfortability, and I frankly just don't trust her. I've known Chelsea and her family for years prior to my marriage, and I wasn't keen on her then either. She does and says strange things that I don't believe are malicious, but it's almost like she wants to be a second wife to him. I don't feel insecure about her, but I feel creeped out. She's shared with me that she sees my husband as like her brother, which irks me because she has an awesome brother, and I'm friends with her brother. She often calls, texts, and FaceTimes about work-related and unrelated topics, and I've heard someone refer to her as his work wife. Unfortunately, my mill passed last month, and it has been utter hell. In the midst of grief, Chelsea texted, asking how my husband was doing and how she cries every day thinking about him, and had told me that she knows exactly what I'm going through. No, she doesn't, and that she can't wait to give my husband a huge hug. Fast forward a little bit, and she was drunk at a party and saw my husband leaving, where she confronted him about why he was leaving. He told her, "I didn't think I had to tell you what I'm doing," resulting in her panic texting him after to make sure they were okay and trying to get him to talk to her by saying, "You can open up and talk to me, vent, or just tell me to STFU." Strange to me. There have been more instances, but I know I have a limit. Anyway, his birthday was last week, and she called him, asking for his shirt size, and she made it a point to let him know she'd never forget his birthday. Like, why are you so creepy sometimes, GF? Yesterday, I was cleaning the kitchen when he walked in, and I noticed it was an unfamiliar shirt. I asked if it was new, and he said, "Chelsea got it for me," and my blood boiled. Instant rage, and I went quiet. He asked if I cared, and I remained silent and walked away. I'm usually a huge communicator, but his mom just passed, and he asked for no drama, and I'm trying my hardest to respect that. But I know I have zero patience, and want to tell him it's effing weird how involved a coworker is trying to become in his life, and she needs to back down and focus on her own engagement. Everyone I talk to says I'm not in the wrong, and she's being creepy. But I feel bad for ignoring my husband and walking away from him. I saw he looked upset and confused, but I know he's already overwhelmed with grief and doesn't want to make things worse. So, Aita. Comments. Can you talk to your husband immediately and say, "This isn't drama. This is threatening our relationship. You need to set boundaries with this coworker, and you need to do it now. No more calling her your work wife. No more of this weird, clingy friendship. You become coworkers, and you draw lines. This is too much, and that shirt is the last straw. Stop it now. You might not see it, but she's either inappropriate by nature, or she's trying to start an affair." Winter Object 6E496. I don't know your communication, but I would just sit him down and ask bluntly. If he's interested in having an affair with Chelsea because she's trying hard to get with him, or if he's trying to downplay the situation, ask him if he would be okay with you flirting and texting with one of your male acquaintances. In the long run, he has to cut this woman out of his life. She seems to don't know how to have a platonic friendship with him. Judgment. NTA. Update. 10 days later. Update. Okay, we have news. So just to clarify some things first, for some additional background. 1. I have known Chelsea and her family prior to my marriage through some mutual connections, and her family is very close with my ex and his family, hence some hesitancy. I became close friends with her brother, and he became a part of my group of friends, etc. She did not meet my husband until they both started working for the same company. So, I was not very close with Chelsea, but we always saw each other and interacted cordially. 2. I did not tell Chelsea his shirt size. She called my husband and asked him his shirt size, which he told her. I would have never told her his size, and would have made some jokes, saying that he has enough shirts and not to bother buying him anymore. I wish I had added this earlier, but my husband and I have had conversations about my feelings regarding Chelsea and her behaviors. I've tried everything, from being sweet, aloof, concerned, and outright angry. Each time I've been met with some variation of "he understands," but Chelsea is neurotic. He never dismisses my feelings outright, but he attempts to be sensitive to her mental state and says that he has no issue stepping in if and when necessary. However, I've found it necessary, and it's clear he isn't trying to have the confrontation until the shirt event. 4. My husband's request for no drama stems from a series of events that occurred within his family and work life that drained his emotional battery, leading him to just ask for smooth sailing and find his new normal. I do have a history of struggling to manage my anger during arguments, but I have taken the steps and done what is necessary to address my anger to make sure my marriage does not suffer, and we have been amazing. I did want to be mindful that what he has endured with family and other aspects of his life has impacted his mood, which led him to openly ask the universe for some peace and no drama, which made me internalize his message. Also, we are scheduled to have our first marriage counseling session this coming week just to really make sure we iron out any issues. And I wanted to make sure when I had my update that I had some juice and evidence of change to give y'all. As for the talk, it went amazing. I sat down with my husband and just told him that there were some things that I wanted to bring to his attention, and included a variation of what was in the comments along with my own words to really drive home the fact that I'm beyond my limit and wanted him to have it on his radar. My husband was very attentive and validating. We talked for a while, and although there were moments where we both didn't seem to understand one another, we tried hard to use some fair fighting rules I've gotten from my therapist, and that really seemed to help. He gave me his point of view, and we talked about how my walking away made him feel awful, and how I was upset that he knew I would be mad seeing him wearing the shirt. I made sure to accept my role in this situation, and he was able to do the same. It turns out that my husband has already had a chat with Chelsea and put her in her place after my reaction, leading Chelsea to have a 3-day temper tantrum and constantly seeking reassurance and validation from my husband, in the form of texts and in-person harassment. My husband finally had enough and told her that if she didn't knock it off, he would pursue this through his chain of command and HR. That seemed to stop her in her tracks, sort of, where she then started to tell him that she was having troubles at home, and my husband responded, "Sorry to hear that. Good luck with everything." She did not like this. He has since set some serious boundaries, and we both came up with some ideas that we were both comfortable with and won't stress out his work environment more. I can't thank this community enough for helping me get my arse in gear. For all comments, the loving and supportive, the ugly and blunt, and the indifferent, I thank you all for taking your time to share your input. This could have possibly saved my marriage. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.